Before we get into this story, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to this channel because what I'm about to tell you will make you question every person you trust. Every single one. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. And if you want to support this channel, there's a super thanks button right below this video. Trust me, you're going to want to hear every word of what happened to me. When I woke up in the hospital after my car accident, my best friend Sarah was holding my husband's hand. Not in a supportive way. Not in that consoling, we're all worried sick kind of way. In the way I used to hold his hand. The way a wife holds her husband's hand. Through my concussed haze, through the fog of whatever painkillers they had pumping through my IV, I heard the nurse say something that made my blood run colder than the ice chips in the cup beside my bed. She said, "Your husband and his wife are here." I tried to focus my eyes. Sarah was wearing my wedding ring. My wedding ring. The 1.2 carat princess cut diamond that Mark had saved for 8 months to buy me. The one that had been on my finger when I got into my car that morning. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. Lying in a hospital bed with 3 broken ribs, a fractured collarbone, a severe concussion, and the slow, creeping realization that the 2 people I loved most in this world had tried to kill me. My name is Jennifer. I'm 53 years old. I've lived in the same town my entire life. Married my high school sweetheart, worked as an elementary school teacher for 28 years. I'm the boring one, the reliable one, the one who brings the same chocolate chip cookies to every PTA meeting, who sends birthday cards exactly 1 week early, who's never missed a mortgage payment in 22 years. Sarah used to joke that I was so predictable, she could set her watch by my routines. She would laugh. I would laugh. We'd been doing everything together for 20 years. 20 years. That's how long Sarah had been my best friend. We met at a new teacher orientation in 2005. She was teaching 4th grade. I was teaching 3rd. We were both 28 years old, both wearing the same nervous smile, both clutching our orientation packets like life preservers. We grabbed coffee after that first day. Then, we grabbed coffee the next day. And the day after that. Within a month, we were inseparable. She was the sister I never had, the person I called first with good news, the shoulder I cried on when my mother died, the one who held my hand through 2 miscarriages, the one who painted my nursery yellow when I finally, miraculously, got pregnant with my daughter Emma at 35. She was there when Emma was born. Right there in the delivery room, holding my other hand while Mark held one, counting through contractions, telling me I was doing great, that I was so strong, that my baby girl was almost here. She was Emma's godmother. She threw me a surprise 40th birthday party. She helped me pick out my reading glasses when I finally admitted I couldn't see the board anymore without squinting. She knew I liked my coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. She knew I was allergic to shellfish. She knew I cried during the end of every romantic movie, even the bad ones. She knew everything. I thought I knew her too. Mark and I had been married for 27 years when this happened. We started dating when I was 19, and he was 21. He was studying engineering. I was studying education. We met at a college football game. He spilled his beer on my white sweater. He was so apologetic, so flustered, offering me napkins, his jacket, money for dry cleaning. I thought it was endearing. We got married 3 years later in a small ceremony at my parents' church. Sarah wasn't there for that, of course. I didn't know her yet, but she'd seen all the wedding photos. She'd heard all the stories. She knew that Mark proposed to me at the same pizza place where we had our first date. She knew he cried when Emma was born. She knew he coached our daughter's soccer team even though he didn't know the first thing about soccer. She knew he kissed me goodbye every morning before work without fail. She knew everything about us, about our marriage, about our life. She knew all of that, and she still did what she did. The accident happened on a Tuesday morning in late September, September 24th, 2024. I remember because it was exactly 1 week after my 53rd birthday. Sarah had taken me out for birthday dinner the week before, just the 2 of us. Mark was working late on some engineering project. Emma was away at college, her junior year at State University. Sarah took me to this Italian place downtown, the nice one with the real tablecloths and the wine list that's basically a book. We split a bottle of Chianti, we ordered too much food, we laughed about getting old. She gave me a bracelet, Sterling silver with a little charm that said, "Sisters Forever." I wore it out of the restaurant. I was wearing it the morning of the accident. That Tuesday started like every Tuesday. My alarm went off at 5:45 in the morning. I hit snooze once, only once, always once. I got up at 5:54, shuffled to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, washed my face, pulled my hair into a ponytail. I went downstairs in my bathrobe and started the coffee maker. The same coffee maker we'd had for 6 years, the one that makes that gurgling sound that Mark says drives him crazy but that I find comforting. I made 2 eggs, scrambled, with a slice of wheat toast. I ate standing at the kitchen counter while I scrolled through my phone, looking at nothing in particular. Mark came down at 6:30, already showered and dressed for work. Khaki pants, blue button-down shirt, the same thing he wore every day. He kissed my forehead. He poured himself coffee in his travel mug. He grabbed the lunch I'd packed him the night before. Turkey sandwich, apple, granola bar, same as always. "Drive safe," he said. He always said that, every single morning for 27 years. "You too," I said. I didn't know those would be the last normal words we'd exchange. I didn't know that the next time I saw him, he'd be holding another woman's hand. My best friend's hand. I left for work at 7:15. I taught 3rd grade at Meadowbrook Elementary, same school I'd been at for my entire career. Same classroom for the last 12 years, room 108 right by the main office. I knew every crack in the sidewalk in the parking lot. I knew which water fountain had the best pressure. I knew that the 3rd stall in the teacher's bathroom had a lock that stuck. I knew everything about that place. It was my second home. I got in my car, a 2019 Honda Accord, silver, with 67,000 miles on it. I'd bought it used 3 years earlier, paid cash, $18,900. It was reliable, safe, exactly the kind of car someone like me would drive. I put my purse in the passenger seat. I adjusted my rearview mirror even though it didn't need adjusting. I connected my phone to the Bluetooth. I was going to listen to a podcast about classroom management techniques. I never got to start it. I pulled out of my driveway at 7:17. I know because I glanced at the clock on my dashboard. I was going to be early. I was always early. I drove down Maple Street, same route I'd taken for 12 years. Left on Oakwood, right on Pemberton, straight for 3 miles until the elementary school. I knew this drive like I knew my own heartbeat. I could have done it blind. I was about 2 miles from school when it happened. I was going 40 miles per hour. The speed limit was 45, but I never went the speed limit. I always went a little under. Careful, cautious, that's me. The road was clear. It was a beautiful morning. Sunny, cool. The leaves were just starting to turn orange and red. I was thinking about my lesson plan for the day, and we were starting a unit on fractions. I was thinking about whether I had enough pizza slices cut out of construction paper for the visual demonstration. I was thinking about normal things, teacher things. And then my brakes didn't work. I came up to the stop sign at Pemberton and Hillcrest. I pressed my brake pedal. Nothing. I pressed harder. Still nothing. The pedal went all the way to the floor. My car didn't slow down. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. This couldn't be happening. Things like this didn't happen to people like me. I pumped the brakes. Nothing. I pulled the emergency brake. Nothing. My car was still going 40 miles per hour, heading straight for the intersection. There was another car coming from the left, a blue pickup truck. I saw it. The driver saw me. His eyes went wide. He honked. He swerved. I yanked my steering wheel to the right, trying to avoid him, and that's when I went off the road. I hit a telephone pole going 38 miles per hour. I know that because the police report later said that's what the crash reconstruction showed. 38 miles per hour doesn't sound that fast, but when you hit a telephone pole, it's fast enough. The airbag deployed. The impact threw me forward against my seatbelt. I heard something crack. Later, I'd learn it was 3 ribs in my collarbone. My head snapped forward and then back. The last thing I remember before everything went black was thinking about my lesson plan, about those construction paper pizza slices, about how I was going to be late for school. I woke up in the hospital. I don't know how long I was out. Time was strange, elastic. I'd open my eyes and see white ceiling tiles, fluorescent lights, and then everything would go dark again. I heard voices, beeping machines, footsteps, someone saying my name. Someone adjusting something near my head, someone holding my hand. I couldn't focus, couldn't think, couldn't string two thoughts together. Everything hurt. My chest felt like someone had parked a car on it. My head throbbed with every heartbeat. My mouth was dry, tasted like metal and cotton. When I finally, truly woke up, when my eyes could focus and my brain could process what I was seeing, the first thing I saw was a nurse. Young, maybe 25, blonde ponytail, pink scrubs. She had kind eyes. She smiled when she saw me looking at her. "Welcome back, Jennifer," she said. Her voice was soft, gentle. "You've been in an accident. You're at County Memorial Hospital. You're safe now. Do you understand?" I tried to nod. My neck screamed in protest. I made a sound that I hoped conveyed yes. "Your husband is here," she said. "Would you like to see him?" My husband. Mark. Yes. I needed to see Mark. I needed him to tell me what happened. I needed his hand to hold. I needed him to tell me everything was going to be okay. I tried to say yes, but my throat was too dry. I managed a weak nod. The nurse smiled and left. I could hear her in the hallway. "She's awake. You can go in now." And that's when they walked in together. Mark and Sarah, side by side, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, moving like one unit, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Like it was natural, like it was normal. My brain couldn't process it. I thought maybe I was hallucinating, the concussion, the pain medication. I was seeing things that weren't there. But then they got closer and I could see their faces clearly and I knew it was real. This was happening. This was real. They stood at the foot of my bed. Mark's face was pale, drawn. He looked like he'd been crying, but he wasn't crying now. He was just staring at me with this strange expression I couldn't read. Sarah's face was harder to see. She was standing slightly behind Mark, her hand on his back, rubbing small circles between his shoulder blades, the way I used to rub his back when he was stressed, the way a wife touches her husband. "Jenny," Mark said, his voice cracked. "Thank God, we were so worried. We were so worried. Not I. We." I tried to speak. My voice came out as a rasp. "What happened?" "You were in a car accident," Sarah said. She stepped forward, and that's when I saw it. My wedding ring, on her finger, on her left hand, catching the fluorescent light. The same ring I'd worn for 27 years. "Your brakes failed. You hit a pole. They brought you here by ambulance." I stared at her hand. At my ring. She saw me looking and quickly moved her hand behind her back. But it was too late. I'd seen it. Unless I was crazy. Unless this was all a hallucination. I tried to lift my own left hand, the one without the IV, to check if my ring was still there. It wasn't. My finger was bare. Empty. The slight indent from 27 years of wearing a ring was still there, but the ring itself was gone. "Where's my ring?" I whispered. "They had to cut it off," Mark said quickly, too quickly. "In the ER, your hand was swelling. They had to remove it so they could treat you properly." That made sense. That was the thing that happened in hospitals. I'd heard about that. But why was Sarah wearing it? Why was it on her finger? I tried to ask, but before I could form the words, the nurse came back in. "Okay, folks, let's not overwhelm her," the nurse said cheerfully. "She needs rest. You can come back during visiting hours this afternoon." She looked at Mark and Sarah. "Your husband and his wife can come back at 2 o'clock. Your husband and his wife." The nurse had said it, out loud, in front of me. Your husband and his wife. As if Sarah was Mark's wife. As if I was nobody. As if I was just some woman in a hospital bed. The words echoed in my head, bouncing around inside my concussed brain, not quite making sense, but making perfect sense at the same time. I looked at Mark. His face had gone even paler. White. Sheet white. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. She meant, he started. "We'll come back later, sweetie," Sarah said to me. Sweetie. She called me sweetie, my best friend, wearing my ring, standing with my husband, calling me sweetie. "You need to rest. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere." They left. Together. Mark's arm still around Sarah's waist. The nurse adjusted my IV, checked my vitals, told me to sleep. I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing despite the fog of medication. I was trying to piece together what I'd just seen. what I'd just heard, trying to make it make sense, trying to find the logical explanation. There had to be one. Sarah was my best friend. Mark was my husband. There had to be a reason Sarah was wearing my ring. There had to be a reason they came in together like that. There had to be a reason the nurse called Sarah his wife. But deep down, in that place where you know things before your conscious mind catches up, I already knew. I knew what was happening. I just didn't want to believe it yet. I spent the next 6 hours in that hospital bed, drifting in and out of consciousness, my mind churning through 20 years of friendship, 27 years of marriage, looking for the signs I must have missed. They must have been there. They had to have been there. You don't just suddenly start an affair with your wife's best friend. You don't just suddenly decide to try to kill someone. These things build. They escalate. They leave traces. I just had to think. I had to remember. And slowly, piece by piece, memory by memory, I started to see it. 3 years ago. That's when things started to change, I realized. 3 years ago, Sarah got divorced from her husband, Tom. They'd been married for 15 years. He'd cheated on her with his dental hygienist. Classic, cliché. Sarah was devastated, absolutely destroyed. She cried for weeks. She stayed at our house for 10 days after Tom moved out, sleeping in our guest room, barely eating, just crying and watching TV and asking why she wasn't enough. I held her. I brought her tea. I let her cry on my shoulder. Mark was kind to her too. He gave her space but was supportive. He'd make extra dinner and bring plates up to the guest room. He'd tell her that Tom was an idiot, that she deserved better, that she was beautiful and smart, and any man would be lucky to have her. Any man would be lucky to have her. I thought he was just being nice, being a good friend, a good host, supportive of his wife's best friend in her time of need. I didn't think anything of it when he started working from home more often during those 10 days. He was an engineer at a consulting firm. He could work from home whenever he wanted. I thought he was just trying to be helpful, make Sarah feel less alone during the day while I was at school. I didn't think anything of it when Sarah started coming over more often after she moved back to her apartment. Once a week became twice a week, became 3 times a week. She'd come for dinner. She'd come to watch movies. She'd come to just sit on our porch and drink wine and talk about nothing. It was nice, I thought. She needed us. She was healing. She was rebuilding her life. We were helping her. I didn't think anything of it when Mark started going to the gym at the same time Sarah went to the gym. They belonged to the same gym. It made sense that they'd sometimes be there at the same time. Small town, only 2 gyms, everyone knew everyone. When Sarah mentioned she'd seen Mark at the gym, I thought nothing of it. When Mark mentioned he'd spotted Sarah on the treadmill, I smiled and said, "Wasn't that nice that she was taking care of herself again?" I didn't think anything of it when Sarah started texting Mark directly instead of going through me. "Can you ask Mark if he knows a good plumber?" became, "Hey Mark, do you know a good plumber?" It was efficient, practical. Why wouldn't she text him directly? They were friends too. We were all friends, one big happy group. I never once thought to check those texts, to see what else they were saying, to look for what I should have seen. I didn't think anything of it when Mark started staying late at work more often. He was an engineer. Engineers worked long hours. He'd always worked long hours. Sometimes he'd text me at 8 o'clock at night saying he was still at the office, not to wait up for dinner. I'd eat alone, watch TV alone, go to bed alone. He'd come home around 10 or 11, smelling like coffee and stress, and I'd already be half asleep. He'd kiss my forehead. I'd murmur goodnight. It was normal. It was marriage. After 25 years, you don't question these things. I didn't think anything of it when Sarah started canceling plans with me. "Sorry, I can't make lunch today. Something came up at work." "I can't do our Sunday morning walk. I'm not feeling well." "I have to skip book club this month." I was understanding. She was busy. She was rebuilding her social life. She didn't need to spend all her time with married, boring me. I encouraged her to get out there, meet new people, maybe start dating again. She'd smile and thank me and say she wasn't ready yet. She was focusing on herself. I didn't think anything of it when I found a receipt in Mark's wallet for a restaurant I'd never been to. An expensive restaurant. $237.42 for dinner. I asked him about it. He said it was a business dinner. His company was wooing a new client. I said that was great. I folded the receipt and tucked it back in his wallet. I didn't ask who he'd had dinner with. I didn't ask why the receipt showed 2 entrees, 1 bottle of wine, 1 dessert, the kind of meal 2 people share, an intimate meal. I just put it back and forgot about it. I didn't think anything of it when Mark changed his phone password. He'd had the same password for years. Our anniversary, August 23rd, 1997. Then one day I tried to check the weather on his phone because mine was dead, and the password didn't work. I asked him about it. He said his work had implemented new security protocols. Everyone had to change their passwords, make them more complex, add numbers and symbols. I said, okay. I didn't ask what the new password was. I didn't need to know. We trusted each other. I didn't think anything of it when Sarah bought the same perfume I wore. We were shopping together one day, about 2 years ago, and I was testing perfumes at the department store. I found one I liked. Light, floral, not too sweet. Sarah smelled it and said it was beautiful. I bought a bottle. The next week I noticed Sarah smelling like my perfume. She said she'd gone back and bought the same one. She said it smelled better on me, but she liked it anyway. I was flattered. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? I didn't think about how Mark would come home and smell that perfume and think of me. I didn't think about how he'd smell it on her and make associations, build connections. I didn't think about it at all. I didn't think anything of it when Emma mentioned that she'd seen Aunt Sarah at the mall with a man. Emma was home from college for Thanksgiving last year. She said she'd seen Sarah having coffee with some guy at the food court. She said they looked cozy. I asked Sarah about it the next time I saw her. She laughed it off, said it was just a friend, a guy from work, nothing romantic. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I didn't think anything of any of it, but lying in that hospital bed, my ribs screaming with every breath, my head pounding, my wedding ring missing from my finger, I thought about all of it, every single thing. And I started to see the pattern, the shape of it, the outline of a betrayal so massive, so complete that my brain could barely comprehend it. They'd been having an affair. For how long? 3 years? 2 years? Longer? Had it started when Sarah was staying in our guest room? Had they crossed that line while I was at work, while I was teaching 8-year-olds how to multiply? Had they been sleeping together in my guest bed, in my house, under my roof? Or had it started later, at the gym, at one of those late-night work sessions? Did it matter when it started? Did the timeline matter? They'd been doing it. They'd been betraying me, my husband, my best friend, together. And they hadn't just been having an affair. That alone would have been devastating enough, but they'd done more than that. So much more. The nurse's words kept echoing in my head. Your husband and his wife. Sarah wearing my ring. The two of them walking in together like a couple. Like they'd done this before, like they'd practiced, like they belonged together. They were living together. They had to be. You don't just show up at a hospital together at the exact same time, moving in perfect synchronization unless you'd come from the same place, unless you'd woken up in the same bed, unless you were living the life that should have been mine. And my accident, my brakes failing, that didn't just happen. Brakes don't just fail on a car with 67,000 miles that had been serviced 3 months ago. I'd had my 60,000-mile service in June. They'd checked everything, brakes, tires, fluids, all of it. The mechanic had said everything looked great. The car was in perfect condition. Brakes don't just fail 4 months later, not without help. Someone had tampered with my brakes. Someone had tried to kill me. I knew who. I knew exactly who. My husband and my best friend, the two people who knew my routine better than anyone, who knew what route I took to work every day, who knew what time I left, who knew that stretch of road on Pemberton, that intersection where I'd eventually have to brake. They'd planned it. They'd wanted me dead. But why? That was the question that kept circling my brain. Why try to kill me? If they wanted to be together, why not just ask for a divorce? Why not just tell me? It would destroy me, yes. It would shatter my entire world. But I wouldn't stand in the way. I wouldn't force Mark to stay married to me if he loved someone else. I'd sign the papers. I'd move on. I'd rebuild. So why kill me? Money. The answer came to me like a lightning bolt. Money. It was always about money. Mark and I had a life insurance policy. We'd taken it out 15 years ago when Emma was born. $500,000 each, $500,000. If one of us died, the other got $500,000. Tax-free, no questions asked, just a check from the insurance company and sympathetic condolences. If Mark divorced me, he'd have to split everything: the house, the savings, his retirement, my retirement, our cars, everything we'd built together in 27 years of marriage. He'd have to pay me alimony, spousal support. I'd been a teacher for 28 years. I made $48,000 a year. He was an engineer making $95,000. He'd owe me money for years, maybe for the rest of my life. But if I died in a tragic accident, he'd get everything. The house was in both our names. The savings accounts were joint, and he'd get that $500,000 insurance payout. Add it all up, and he'd walk away with close to $1 million, maybe more. And he'd be free to marry Sarah, to live happily ever after with my best friend, with no messy divorce, no splitting assets, no one thinking he was a bad guy for leaving his wife. Just a grieving widower who eventually found love again with his late wife's best friend. People would think it was sweet, romantic, two people finding comfort in each other after shared tragedy. They'd tried to kill me for money. The realization hit me so hard, I actually gasped, and the pain in my ribs made me cry out. A nurse came rushing in, different nurse, older. She checked my vitals and asked if I needed more pain medication. I said yes. She adjusted my IV. The warm, fuzzy feeling spread through my veins. The pain dulled. But my mind kept working, kept racing, kept putting pieces together. I had to prove it. I had to prove what they'd done, the affair, the murder attempt, all of it. But I was stuck in a hospital bed. I couldn't walk, could barely move, could barely think straight through the pain and the medication. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust, someone who wasn't Mark or Sarah, someone who would believe me. Emma, my daughter, 21 years old, junior at State University, smart as a whip, studying criminal justice. She wanted to be a lawyer. She'd believe me. She'd help me. I just had to get to my phone. Where was my phone? I looked around the hospital room. I didn't see it. I tried to reach for the call button to ask the nurse, but my arm felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The pain medication was pulling me under. I fought it. I needed to stay awake. I needed to call Emma. I needed to tell her what I knew, but the medication won. I drifted off, and when I woke up, it was afternoon, 2 o'clock, visiting hours, and Mark and Sarah were back. This time, I was ready. This time, I watched them. Really watched them. The way they moved together. The way Sarah's hand rested on Mark's arm. The way he leaned into her touch. The way they looked at each other when they thought I wasn't paying attention. Little glances, silent communications. The intimacy of people who knew each other's bodies, who'd spent hours together, days, months, years. "How are you feeling?" Mark asked. He sat in the chair next to my bed. Sarah stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder. "Where's Emma?" I asked. My voice was stronger now, less raspy. "She's on her way," Mark said. "I called her this morning. She's driving down from school. Should be here tonight." "What did you tell her?" "Just that you were in an accident, that you're okay, that she shouldn't worry but should come when she can." "Did you tell her you'd be here with your wife?" The words came out before I could stop them, sharp, angry. I saw Mark's face change, saw the fear flicker in his eyes, saw Sarah's hand tighten on his shoulder. "The nurse made a mistake," Sarah said quickly. "She was confused. She thought you were Mark's wife because you're wearing my wedding ring," I said. I looked directly at Sarah, at her left hand. She'd put the ring on her right hand now, moved it, but I could see the outline of it through her pocket. She'd had it in her pocket, ready to slip back on her left hand when she thought I wasn't looking. "Why are you wearing my ring, Sarah?" "I'm not," she said. But her face said otherwise. Her face said I was caught. "They cut it off in the ER," Mark said. "I gave it to Sarah for safekeeping, so it wouldn't get lost." "And she just happened to put it on her own finger? For safekeeping?" Mark didn't have an answer for that. He just sat there, looking at me with those eyes I'd looked into for 27 years, and I saw the truth in them. I saw the guilt, the fear, the calculation happening behind his eyes as he tried to figure out how much I knew, how much I'd figured out, how much damage control he needed to do. "I want you both to leave," I said. My voice was calm, steady. I was done crying, done being confused, done being the victim. "Get out of my room. Jenny, please, Mark started. My name is Jennifer. Only people who love me get to call me Jenny. Get out. They left. They didn't argue, didn't protest, just exchanged a look and left together the same way they'd come in, like a unit, like a couple, like husband and wife. I watched them go and I started planning. The first thing I did was find my phone. It was in the closet, in a plastic bag with my other belongings, my purse, my keys, my clothes, cut away by the EMTs. I pulled out my phone. It was cracked but functional. I called Emma. She answered on the second. Ring. Mom? Oh my God, Mom, are you okay? Dad said you were in an accident. I'm driving right now. I'm about 2 hours away. Emma, honey, I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said. I kept my voice low, calm. I didn't want the nurses to hear. I need you to do something for me before you come to the hospital. Anything. What do you need? I need you to go to the house, our house, but don't go in. Don't let Dad know you're there. Park down the street. I need you to look in the garage and tell me what you see. What am I looking for? Dad's car. Look under it. Look at the brake lines. Take pictures. Tell me if anything looks wrong. Cut, tampered with, anything unusual. There was a long pause. Mom, what's going on? Just do it, baby, please. And then come here. Don't tell your father you stopped at the house first. Don't tell him I asked you to do this. Can you do that for me? Yes? Yes, okay. I'm turning around right now. I'll call you back. She hung up. I lay back in the hospital bed and waited. My ribs hurt. My head hurt. Everything hurt. But my mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in years. Maybe clearer than it had ever been. I'd spent 27 years being soft, being trusting, being the good wife, the good friend, the good teacher, being predictable, being safe, being boring. And look where it got me. Alone in a hospital bed with 3 broken ribs and a husband who'd tried to kill me. Not anymore. Emma called back 45 minutes later. She was crying. Mom, there's something wrong with your car. The brake lines, they're cut. Not all the way, but there are these deep scratches, like someone took a knife or a saw and scored them so they'd eventually give out. Oh my God, Mom, someone tried to kill you. We need to call the police. We will, I said, but not yet. I need you to take those pictures and save them somewhere safe. Email them to yourself, print them, whatever you need to do to make sure we don't lose them. And then I need you to do something else. What? I need you to go to Dad's office, the home office, his desk. Look through his files, his computer if you can get into it. I need you to find anything about a life insurance policy. Anything about money, bank statements, credit card bills, anything that shows where he's been spending money. Can you do that? Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on? Why would Dad? Emma, sweetheart, I need you to trust me right now. I'll explain everything when you get here. But right now, I need you to look. Please. She did. God bless that girl. She did exactly what I asked. She went through Mark's office like a detective. She found bank statements showing large cash withdrawals every week for the past 3 years. $200, $300, sometimes $500, always on the same day, always Friday. She found credit card bills showing charges at hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores. She found receipts in his desk drawer. Flowers, perfume, lingerie. All of it dated over the past 3 years. All of it purchased when he was supposed to be working late or at the gym or on business trips. And she found the life insurance policy. It was in his filing cabinet in a folder labeled Important Documents, $500,000. Beneficiary, Mark David Morrison. Policyholder, Jennifer Lynn Morrison, me. Updated 6 months ago to increase the payout from $250,000 to $500,000. I'd signed the paperwork. I remembered signing it. Mark had said it was a good idea with Emma in college, with expenses going up, with retirement coming. He said we should both increase our coverage. I'd signed it without reading it. Why would I read it? I trusted him. Emma took pictures of everything. She sent them to my phone. She told me she was calling the police, that we needed to report this right now, that Dad had tried to kill me and we had proof. I told her to wait. Not yet. I had to think. I had to plan. If we called the police now, if we showed them the evidence now, Mark and Sarah would know I was onto them. They'd lawyer up. They'd claim the brake line damage happened in the accident. They'd say I was confused from the concussion. They'd explain away the bank statements and the receipts, business expenses, gifts for me that they hadn't given yet. They'd have answers, they'd have alibis, and they'd get away with it. I needed more. I needed the affair documented. I needed proof they were living together. I needed something irrefutable, something they couldn't explain away. Come to the hospital, I told Emma. Act normal. Act like you don't know anything. Hug your dad. Thank Aunt Sarah for being here, and watch them. Watch how they are together. Tell me what you see. Emma arrived at the hospital at 7:30 that evening. She came into my room like a hurricane, all tears and hugs and, oh my God, Mom, I was so scared. She was a good actress, better than I expected. She hugged me gently, careful of my ribs. She held my hand. She asked the doctors questions about my prognosis, and then she turned to Mark and Sarah, who'd been sitting in the corner of my room, waiting. Thank you for being here, Emma said to them. She hugged Mark. She hugged Sarah. And I watched her face as she did it, watched her seeing what I'd seen, the way they stood together, the way Sarah's hand found Mark's, the way they looked at each other. Emma's face changed, hardened. She saw it. She knew. Can I talk to you two for a minute? Emma said to them. In the hall, I have some questions about Mom's care, medical stuff. They followed her out. I could see them through the window in my door, Emma talking, Mark and Sarah nodding, looking concerned, playing the parts of worried husband and worried best friend. Emma's face was calm, neutral. She was asking them questions. I couldn't hear what, but I could see Mark's face getting more and more uncomfortable. I could see Sarah touching his arm, reassuring him. Emma came back in alone 5 minutes later. They left to get coffee, she said. She sat on the edge of my bed. Mom, they're together. They're definitely together. I asked them where they were this morning when they got the call about your accident. They said they were at home, singular, not his home and her home, together. And Dad slipped up. He said, we were having breakfast when the hospital called. We, not I, we. Did you confront them? No, I just nodded and thanked them and said it was good that you had people who loved you. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Mom, what are we going to do? We're going to destroy them, I said. Over the next 3 days, while I recovered in the hospital, Emma and I built our case. Emma went back to the house every day. She went through everything. She found a lease agreement in Mark's car, an apartment lease for a 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. The lease was in Mark's name and Sarah's name, joint tenants. It had started 3 months ago. They'd been living together for 3 months, while Mark was coming home to me every night, kissing my forehead, sleeping in our bed. He'd been maintaining an apartment with Sarah, a love nest, a place to play house. Emma found text messages. She'd convinced Mark to let her borrow his old iPad, the one he'd replaced last year but kept for reading. He'd given it to her without thinking. He didn't know she was a criminal justice major who knew how to recover deleted data. She synced his messages to the iPad. She read everything. 3 years of messages between Mark and Sarah. I love yous. Misuse, can't wait to see yous. Discussions about me, about how I was boring, predictable, cold, how I didn't understand Mark like Sarah did, how they were soulmates, how they were meant to be together. And then, from 6 months ago, she found the messages that made my blood run cold. Mark, we can't keep living like this. I want to be with you full time. Sarah, I know, baby, me too, but what about Jennifer? Mark, I've been thinking about that. Sarah, divorce? Mark, too expensive. She'd take half of everything, and the alimony would kill me. Sarah, so what do we do? Mark, there might be another way. The messages stopped there. Moved to phone calls, in-person conversations. But the implication was clear. They'd planned it. They'd discussed it. They'd decided that killing me was easier than divorcing me. Emma found the search history on Mark's computer. How to cut brake lines without being detected. Do brake lines heal themselves? How long does it take for scored brake lines to fail? What happens when brake lines fail while driving? How to make a car accident look natural? He'd searched all of this, from our home computer, from the office he'd worked in for 15 years, the office down the hall from our bedroom, while I slept. We had everything, the motive, the opportunity, the means, the planning, the affair, the attempted murder, all of it. We had them. On my 4th day in the hospital, the police came to take my statement about the accident. I told them everything. I showed them the pictures of my brake lines, the bank statements, the lease agreement, the text messages, the search history. I watched the officer's face change as I laid it all out. Disbelief, shock, anger. He called his sergeant. The sergeant came. I told the story again. They took notes. They took copies of everything Emma had found. They said they'd investigate. They said not to tell Mark or Sarah what I'd told them. They said to act normal. Let them think I didn't know. I was discharged from the hospital on day 6. Mark came to pick me up. He brought flowers, daisies, my favorite. He'd remembered, or maybe Sarah had reminded him. He helped me into the car. He drove carefully. He asked if I was in pain. He said he'd taken time off work to help me recover. He said Sarah had offered to come by and help too. She was such a good friend, he said. We were so lucky to have her. I smiled and thanked him. I said yes, Sarah was wonderful. Yes, I'd love her help. Yes, it would be nice to have company while I recovered. I played the part perfectly. The grateful wife, the trusting friend, the naive woman who had no idea what was happening right under her nose. But I knew. I knew everything. And I was going to make them pay. The police worked quickly. They impounded my car. They examined the brake lines. They confirmed what Emma had photographed. The lines had been deliberately scored, cut almost all the way through, leaving just enough that they'd hold for a few days, maybe a week, before giving out completely. Whoever did it knew what they were doing, knew exactly how much to cut to make it look like an accident while ensuring failure. The police interviewed mechanics. They determined the damage had been done recently, within a week of my accident. Sometime between my last trip to the grocery store on September 17th and the morning of the accident on September 24th, they got a warrant for Mark's finances. They found the cash withdrawals Emma had found. They also found that he'd rented a storage unit 6 months ago. The police got a warrant for that too. Inside, they found more evidence. Love letters between Mark and Sarah, photos of them together, hotel receipts, romantic getaways I'd never known about, and they found tools. A hacksaw, the kind you could use to cut brake lines. It still had metal shavings on it. The forensics team analyzed the shavings. They matched the composition of my brake lines. The police brought Mark in for questioning on my 10th day home from the hospital. I was in the living room when they knocked on the door. Mark answered. I watched from the couch, wrapped in a blanket, pretending to nap. They asked if he'd come down to the station. They said they had some questions about my accident. Mark said, of course, anything to help. He kissed my forehead on his way out. He said he'd be back soon. He never came back. They arrested him at the station, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder. They arrested Sarah at her apartment an hour later, same charges. Both of them sat in interrogation rooms and lied, denied everything, said they were just friends, said they didn't know anything about brake lines, said the tools in the storage unit were for a woodworking project, said the apartment lease was a mistake, they'd signed it as friends, as roommates, nothing more. But then the police showed them the text messages, the search history, the financial records, the witness statements from Emma, who'd seen them together, who'd heard them refer to their shared home. The apartment complex manager, who'd seen them coming and going together, kissing in the parking lot, carrying groceries in together. The restaurant staff who'd served them romantic dinners. The hotel clerks who'd checked them in as Mr. and Mrs. Morrison. Not Mr. Morrison and Ms. Parker, Mr. and Mrs. The evidence was overwhelming. Their lawyers told them to make a deal. The prosecutor was offering 25 years if they pled guilty. If they went to trial, they were looking at life. Mark cracked first. He confessed. He said it was all Sarah's idea, that she'd seduced him, that she'd pressured him to get rid of me, that she wanted my life, my husband, my house, my money. He threw her under the bus completely, said he loved me, that he'd made a mistake, that Sarah had manipulated him. Sarah's lawyer showed her Mark's statement. She lost it. She confessed too. But her version was different. She said Mark had pursued her, that he'd complained about me constantly, that he'd said he wanted out of the marriage but couldn't afford to divorce me, that killing me had been his idea, that she'd gone along with it because she loved him, that she thought they'd be happy together once I was gone. They both took plea deals. Mark got 30 years, Sarah got 28. They were sentenced in the same courtroom on the same day by the same judge. I was there. I sat in the front row. I wore the same outfit I'd worn to my wedding to Mark, a white dress, simple, classic. I wanted him to remember what he'd lost, what he'd thrown away, what he'd tried to destroy. The judge read the charges: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, theft, on and on. The list was long. When he asked if Mark had anything to say, Mark looked at me. He cried. He said he was sorry. He said he loved me. He said he didn't know what he was thinking. He said Sarah had confused him. He said he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. When the judge asked if Sarah had anything to say, she didn't look at me. She looked at Mark. She said she loved him. She said they were supposed to be together. She said I'd stolen her happiness, her chance at love. She said I was selfish for not just letting Mark go. She said this was all my fault. The judge was not impressed. He gave them the maximum sentence, 30 years for Mark, 28 for Sarah. They'd be eligible for parole in 20 and 18 years respectively. They'd be old, broken, alone. Their lives, as they knew them, were over. I filed for divorce the same day. Mark didn't contest it. I got everything: the house, the savings, his retirement, my retirement, the cars, everything we'd built in 27 years, and I got the life insurance policy. Not the $500,000 they'd hoped would be Mark's when I died, but a different policy. A smaller one we'd taken out years ago, $50,000. It paid out because Mark was convicted of a felony. There was a clause. I collected $50,000 and used it to pay for the best therapist in town. I also sued Sarah for alienation of affection. It's an old law. Not many states have it anymore, but ours did. I sued her for destroying my marriage, for stealing my husband, for 20 years of fake friendship, for trying to kill me. I won. The jury awarded me $275,000. Sarah didn't have that kind of money. She'd have to pay it from prison, from whatever job she could get for the rest of her life. Garnished wages, forever. Every penny she ever made, a portion would come to me, for the rest of her life. The school district fired her. She lost her teaching license, her career, her identity, gone. Mark's engineering firm fired him too. Professional conduct clause. His license was revoked. Everything they'd worked for, everything they'd built, their careers, their reputations, their freedom, all of it gone. And me? I healed, physically and emotionally. My ribs healed in 8 weeks. The concussion symptoms faded after 3 months. The nightmares took longer, the trust issues even longer. But I worked on it. I went to therapy twice a week. I talked to Emma every day. She took a semester off school to stay with me, to help me recover, to help me rebuild. She went back in the spring, but she came home every weekend. She made sure I was okay. She made sure I was eating, sleeping, living. I retired from teaching that year. 28 years was enough. I couldn't go back to that classroom knowing Sarah had been in the one next door, knowing we'd shared lunch duty, knowing we'd chaperoned field trips together, knowing she'd stood in my classroom and smiled at me and hugged me, and all the while was sleeping with my husband, planning my death. I couldn't do it, so I retired. I was 53, too young to retire. But I had money now. The divorce settlement, the life insurance, the lawsuit. I had enough. I sold the house, too many memories, too many ghosts. Mark in the kitchen making coffee. Sarah in the guest room crying over her divorce while planning mine. I sold it and bought a small condo by the beach, 2 bedrooms, 1 for me, 1 for when Emma visited. I got a dog, a golden retriever named Lucy. I took up painting. I'd always wanted to paint but never had time. I had time now, all the time in the world. I made new friends, real friends, women from my painting class, my book club, my yoga studio, women who didn't want anything from me except companionship, who didn't have secret agendas, who didn't sleep with my husband, who just wanted to drink coffee and talk about art and books and life. It was nice, simple, uncomplicated. Emma graduated college, got into law school. She's in her 2nd year now. She wants to be a prosecutor. She says she wants to put away people like Mark and Sarah, people who hurt people, people who betray trust, people who think they can get away with murder. I'm so proud of her, so proud of the woman she's become, Strong, smart, fierce, everything I wasn't when I was her age, everything I had to learn to be. It's been 3 years since the accident, 3 years since I woke up in that hospital bed and saw my husband holding my best friend's hand. 3 years since my entire world shattered and I had to build a new one from the broken pieces. I'm 56 now. I'm happy. Actually happy. Not the kind of happy I thought I was before. Not the settled, comfortable, predictable happy of a long marriage and a stable life, but real happy. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, from knowing what you survived, from knowing you're stronger than you ever thought possible. I saw Sarah's mother at the grocery store last month. She looked older, tired. She tried to avoid me, but I walked right up to her. I said hello. I asked how she was doing. She started crying. She said she was so sorry, that she didn't raise Sarah to be like that she didn't understand what happened. I told her it wasn't her fault. I told her some people are just broken in ways we can't see. I told her I hoped she was taking care of herself. She thanked me and walked away. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, nothing. They didn't deserve my emotions anymore, any of them. I haven't seen Mark. He's in a state prison 4 hours away. He writes to Emma sometimes, letters asking how she is, saying he misses her, saying he's sorry. She doesn't write back. She throws the letters away without reading them. She says he stopped being her father the day he tried to kill her mother. I told her she doesn't have to feel that way, that he's still her father, that she can have a relationship with him if she wants. She says she doesn't want to, says she has no room in her life for people who lie. I understand that. Sarah tried to write to me once. A letter from her prison. It came about a year after sentencing. I held it in my hands for a long time, wondering if I should read it, wondering if there was anything she could say that would matter, anything that would make sense of what she'd done, anything that would make me understand how you sleep with your best friend's husband for 3 years, how you help him plan her murder, how you wear her wedding ring, how you become the thing you are. I burned the letter without reading it. I took it out to my little beach condo patio, put it in a metal bowl, and lit it on fire. I watched it burn, watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash, watched the smoke drift away on the ocean breeze. And then I scattered the ashes in the garbage and went inside and made myself dinner and watched a movie and went to bed. She didn't get to say anything to me. She didn't get closure. She didn't get forgiveness. She got nothing. Because that's what she deserved. Nothing. The worst part, if I'm being honest, isn't the betrayal. It's not even the attempted murder. It's the time. It's the 20 years of friendship that I thought were real. The memories I have to wonder about now. Every coffee date, every girls' night, every birthday party, every Christmas present, every hug, every "I love you, you're my best friend." Were any of them real? Or was she always looking at my life, at my husband, at what I had, and thinking that she wanted it, that she deserved it more than me? Was she always planning to take it? Or did it start later? And if it started later, when? When exactly did my best friend decide to destroy me? I'll never know. And I've had to make peace with that. I've had to accept that some questions don't have answers, that some betrayals are so complete, so total, that you can't understand them. You can only survive them, move past them, build something new. So that's what I did. I survived. I moved past. I built something new. A new life, a new identity, a new understanding of who I am and what I'm capable of. I learned that I'm not boring. I'm not predictable. I'm not the doormat they thought I was. I'm strong. I'm resilient. I'm someone who fights back, someone who gets justice, someone who wins. And they're in prison. Both of them. For decades. They'll be old when they get out. If they get out, they'll have nothing. No careers, no money, no friends, no family, just each other. And I hope they're miserable. I hope they blame each other. I hope they spend every day in their cells regretting what they did, regretting that they underestimated me, regretting that they tried to kill someone who turned out to be a lot harder to kill than they thought. Because I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still standing. And they're not. If you've made it this far in the story, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share what happened to me. If you or someone you know is in a situation where you suspect betrayal, where something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Pay attention. Look for the signs. Don't be like I was, blind and trusting and assuming the best in people. Sometimes people are exactly as bad as your worst fears. Sometimes they're worse. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have waited to gather evidence? Would you have confronted them immediately? Would you have forgiven them? I read every comment and I love hearing from you all. If you want to support this channel, there's a super thanks button below. Every bit helps me keep making these videos, keep sharing these stories, keep letting people know they're not alone in their experiences. And remember, if someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't make excuses for them. Don't give them second chances they don't deserve. Don't be afraid to walk away from people who hurt you, no matter how long you've known them. You deserve better. You deserve people who love you and respect you and would never dream of hurting you. And if you don't have those people right now, keep looking. They're out there. I promise. Take care of yourselves, trust your instincts, and never ever let anyone make you feel like you're crazy for questioning what you see. You're not crazy. You're paying attention, and that's the smartest thing you can do. I'll see you in the next video.